The silence in the Riverwood Heights living room at 3 o'clock in the morning was usually thick as velvet. But tonight it was sharp as a blade, cutting the air between us. The fire of the conflict had burned down, and all that remained was the smoke of torched trust. "Are you seriously bringing this up again?" Sophia hissed, her voice cracking the space like a whip. "He's my best friend, Ethan. I'm not going to apologize for that." I gripped the scorched coffee mug, my knuckles white, my gaze locked on her across the table. The early morning sun, just breaking through the window, bathed our kitchen in a false theatrical gold. "He texted you at midnight," I said, barely keeping the tremor out of my voice, "and you instantly flipped your phone over. This isn't about friendship. It's about concealment." Sophia, confident and unbothered, leaned back against the counter, her arms crossed. Her posture was a challenge. "It was just a funny meme. God forbid I laugh without asking your permission." I stood up slowly, stiffly. The chair dragged across the tiled floor with a sharp, unsettling scrape. "You're not going to twist this. I'm not the one being secretive here, and I'm not the one acting like I'm 12 messages away from an affair." She laughed, a short, dry, insulting sound. "You're just ridiculous." The word hit like a slap. Ridiculous. I took a step forward. "You text him every night for weeks. You changed your password. You call him when it's just about work, but you forget to mention it until I find his name in the call log. And every single time I ask, you call me insecure. Because you are—" She cut back, a grown man throwing fits over someone's friendship. "You need help, Ethan." I slammed my palm on the table hard. Cups rattled. Something inside me snapped. "Then go," I barked. "Run to him. Call it what it is. At best, it's an emotional affair." Sophia narrowed her eyes. "Do you really think I'd choose you over someone who actually listens? Who isn't just haunting the house like a ghost?" I blinked, stunned. "So I was a ghost?" She didn't answer right away. She just took a leisurely sip of coffee as if she hadn't just ripped me apart. And then I knew it was never about the meme or the friend or my pestering. It was about control. She held the reins while I begged her to drive straight. "Aren't you afraid that you're wrong?" I asked quietly. "You're afraid that I might be right?" For the first time, her eyes twitched, barely noticeable. But it was there, a telltale sign. "Wow," she muttered. "You're really spiraling." "No," I said, backing toward the door. "I'm waking up." I grabbed my keys. My voice was low, steady, and cold. "And you should be afraid of that." The door slammed shut behind me. Fresh, clean, real air enveloped me outside. Our marriage had a crack in it, and all I could think was, I need to know for sure. If I'm leaving, I have to do it with my head held high. The next morning, it was like nothing had happened. Sophia was humming, flipping pancakes, swaying to a breezy pop song from her phone. The kitchen smelled of butter and maple syrup. Comforting, mundane, but I couldn't take my eyes off her. She was a character on a stage playing a part for an audience of one. She set a plate in front of me with a light smile and kissed me on the cheek as if she hadn't dared me to leave last night. "So," she said, sitting down, "we're having a girls' night tonight. Just wine, movies, board games. Laura's bringing her weird goat cheese again." She chuckled lightly, then bit into her toast. I watched her chew, nodding slowly. Her tone was airy. Her face relaxed, but her eyes darted to me too often, as if checking how much I believed. "Just girls, huh?" I asked calmly, setting down my fork. "That's good." She smiled again. "Yeah, all of us. No boys, just catching up." I leaned back in my chair and let the silence stretch. Then, as casually as turning a page, I said, "Megan's in town." The name dropped like a weight. Sophia's butter knife paused in the air over the toast just for a moment. Then she continued, but more slowly. "Megan, your friend from Georgetown. Megan?" "That's the one," I said. "She texted me out of the blue. Said she's here for a couple of days. Wanted to grab a drink." I figured why not. Sophia looked up, forcing a small, polite smile. "That's great. Long time no see. Long time, years." Megan was smart, sharp, one of those women who always saw right through people. And Sophia had never liked that. Jealous maybe, or felt threatened. Yeah, I said. We were pretty close back then. Remember, study partners, late nights at the library. She helped me stay awake for my thesis defense. Sophia let out a strained little laugh. You've mentioned her a couple of times. Oh, she mentioned you too? I added in a light tone, reaching for my coffee. Said she used to look at her like a threat every time she came over. Sophia set down the toast. I didn't push. I didn't smile maliciously. I just drank my coffee with a steady gaze. I let the statement settle. The crack deepened and I could see it. The silent tension in her posture, the way she stopped chewing. She tried to smile, but her eyes were frozen. Anyway, I added, since you're out with the girls tonight, I figured maybe I'd meet up with Megan. Nothing crazy. Just grab a drink. Catch up. Sophia nodded slow and careful. Sure, that sounds fun. I didn't say anything more. I didn't have to. Her performance wasn't ruined, but I could see her working. The way she washed the dishes more aggressively than usual. The way she checked her phone 3 times in a minute. She was trying to keep her cool, trying to calculate because Sophia hated Megan. Not because Megan had done anything wrong, but because Megan was genuine, straightforward, one of those women who never needed to fight for attention. People just liked her, and I had just handed Sophia a mirror. That evening, as she left for her girls' night, she put on red lipstick she hadn't touched in months. Her perfume was heavier, her heels higher. Have fun, I said as she grabbed her clutch. You too, she answered quickly, then hesitated. Say hi to Megan. I nodded, holding her gaze. As soon as the door clicked shut, I let out a slow breath. I hadn't planned on meeting Megan tonight. Not yet. But I'd cast the hook, and from the flicker in Sophia's eyes, I knew she had swallowed the bait. I didn't leave the house that night. There was no need. I sat alone in the living room. The quiet hum of the TV filled the silence as I watched some documentary I couldn't even recall the name of. My phone vibrated once, but I didn't check it. I wasn't waiting for a message. I was watching the clock. Sophia had been gone for over an hour. She hadn't said much, just flashed a quick smile and told me not to wait up. I had no intention of waiting. I was letting the time pass on purpose. At 9:45 p.m., I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and returned to the living room with a calmness that didn't match what was boiling beneath my skin. I lay awake for hours. I remembered how Sophia used to curl up on my chest after long days. How she'd bring me my favorite tea when I was pulling an all-nighter. How she'd ask about my dreams as if she cared. Now I couldn't recognize the woman who smiled at me across that kitchen. At 1:13 a.m., I heard the front door open. Quiet footsteps. A pause in the hallway. I didn't move. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of knowing I was awake. She slipped silently into the bathroom. I could hear her brushing her teeth, humming a soft tune, as if nothing was broken, as if everything was fine. When she finally climbed into bed beside me, the mattress dipped softly. Her perfume still lingered on her skin. Something new, sweet, vanilla-like, and something sharp I couldn't place. I kept my eyes closed. For a moment, I felt her move closer as if to habitually cuddle. But she stopped, hovered, then turned onto her side. I opened my eyes in the dark and stared at the ceiling. I didn't touch her, didn't say a word. The next morning, Sophia acted as if everything was perfectly normal. She made coffee, danced barefoot in the kitchen to an old playlist, and never once mentioned the party. "Morning, love," she said brightly, handing me a cup. I took it silently, watching her. She chatted about traffic, work, and some silly podcast she was half listening to. And I listened, but I didn't hear her because beneath her light tone, her energy was different, tense. She kept glancing at me as if trying to measure something, to weigh it. The Mill Valley coffee shop was quiet for a Friday, just the occasional hiss of the espresso machine and the low hum of conversations over chipped ceramic mugs. I sat in a far corner, sipping the lukewarm coffee I could barely taste. Across from me, Ryan stirred cream into his cup as if it were a ritual. He was my best friend from college. No drama, no pretense, just a guy who always showed up. "Are you going to tell me what's eating at you lately?" Or are we just going to pretend you love this place for the ambience? He said after a pause. I sighed, running a hand over my face. Sophia. Ryan's eyes sharpened. What about her? I hesitated. This was the part one hated. Saying it out loud made it real. I think she's seeing someone. He didn't flinch, just nodded slowly. That guy you mentioned a while back, Jordan. I nodded, suddenly grateful I'd confided in him before. Yeah, him. She swears they're just friends. But something's off. I feel it. Late texts, evasive answers. Her whole vibe is different now. Ryan leaned back in his chair. Have you talked to her about it? Plenty. Every time she turns it into my problem. Says I'm paranoid, insecure. He gave a dry laugh. The classic defense. I checked her phone, I confessed. Didn't find anything concrete, but I saw enough. Ryan was silent for a moment. Then he set down his cup carefully. Look, I wasn't going to say anything until you brought it up, but I noticed something strange. My heart sped up. What? He paused, then said, a few weeks ago, I was scrolling through Instagram. You know how it suggests people you might know? I saw Sophia. It said she was following Jordan and then she unfollowed him. I blinked. She what? Ryan shrugged. Might have been a glitch. Or maybe she blocked him, but it stood out. I mean, if they're so close. A strange wave of something washed over me. Hope, doubt, relief tangled with suspicion. Are you sure? I asked, sitting up straight. Pretty sure, he said. I didn't think anything of it at the time. Figured maybe they had a fight. Ryan watched me carefully. Maybe she's trying to fix things. Cutting him off. It doesn't mean everything will be back to normal. But maybe she's starting to realize what she's risking. Maybe she was trying. Maybe I was wrong. But deep down, I couldn't shake the unease because nothing was that simple in Sophia's world. If she unfollowed him, it wasn't just out of guilt. It was because she thought I might find out. It was damage control. Ryan clapped me reassuringly on the shoulder. Whatever's going on, man, he said. You'll handle it. You always do. I nodded, offering a faint smile. Thanks. But inside something was still twisting because I felt the truth was still out there. Just not where I was looking. I picked up my phone and texted Megan. Let's grab dinner tomorrow anytime. The response was almost immediate. Absolutely. Sophia was back from her party a little after 10 o'clock. She walked through the door humming a bouncy tune, her heels clicking softly on the hardwood. She tossed her coat onto the rack, then floated into the kitchen like she was gliding. Hi, sweetie, she called out too easily. We didn't burn the apartment down. You can relax. I looked at her over the newspaper I wasn't reading. Glad to hear it. She looked radiant. Her hair was tousled but neat. Her cheeks were flushed. Her eyeliner was still perfectly in place. Something was off about her energy. She was too polished, too eager, like someone overplaying happiness. The wine was awful, by the way, she added, rummaging through the fridge. And Laura brought those weird crackers that taste like cardboard. I need real food. I nodded slowly. Just a girl's night. Huh? Yep, she replied. Not missing a beat. Same old gang. She had her back to me, but I saw the briefest pause as she opened the fridge. A half-second of stillness, a flicker in her choreography. I didn't push, didn't call out a name, didn't ask about Jordan, didn't ask who really showed up. Instead, I turned a page of the newspaper and sipped my coffee, letting her stew in the silence. The only sounds were the hum of the fridge and the faint clinking of glass. Are you hungry? She asked after a moment, her voice too casual. No, I said. I already ate. We spoke little after that. Later that evening, we brushed our teeth side by side, just like we used to, only now our reflections barely spoke. She caught my eye in the mirror once, then quickly looked away. In bed, I turned off the lamp and lay still. About 20 minutes later, my phone pinged with a message. It was Megan. Hey, still in town? Free tomorrow? Let's meet up if you can. I stared at the message longer than I needed to. Not because I was surprised, but because something in me clicked. Sophia stirred beside me, but didn't speak. I knew she heard the text come in. She always noticed. I didn't reply to Megan right away. I just shoved the phone under the pillow and lay in the dark staring at the ceiling. She was awake. I could feel it in the way her breathing was too controlled. She was pretending. Good. Let her wonder because I wasn't playing defense anymore. The next morning, Sophia was bright again. Overly so. She poured coffee, kissed my cheek, and asked if I had any big plans. Maybe, I said. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Yeah, I answered. I might meet up with Megan. She's still around. Sophia blinked once. Just once, but her composure held. You two always got along. I nodded. We really did. She didn't say anything after that, just pulled at her coffee and looked out the window as if the answers were out there. But I wasn't looking at the scenery. I was looking at her reflection in the glass and the way her jaw tightened when she thought I wasn't watching. I didn't expect to run into Derek that day. We hadn't talked in months. Not due to bad blood, just the usual drift. He and Sophia were college friends. His wife, Nicole, knew everyone in that social circle, too. I spotted him at the corner coffee shop near Main Street, balancing 2 iced coffees and a bag of croissants like he was reenacting a sitcom. We exchanged the usual nods and quick greetings, and he invited me to sit while he waited for Nicole. I agreed. The first few minutes were filled with small talk. Work, weather, football, and then I casually asked, "Hey, Sophia mentioned Laura's party the other night. You and Nick didn't go." Derek frowned. Which one? Girls only, apparently. Laura's wine and board game night. His mouth opened slightly, as if something clicked. Then he laughed. Oh man, that party. Nah, it wasn't girls only. Jordan was there. He showed up late with a bottle of rose like some sitcom cliché. I felt it in my chest. A slow, spreading numbness. Jordan. Right, I said carefully, keeping my face blank. Sophia didn't mention that. She said it was just the girls. Derek furrowed his brow. Huh? I could have sworn I saw her talking to him for a while. Thought they were all catching up. He took a sip of his drink, utterly unaware that he had just pulled back the curtain. I forced a smile. Must have forgotten to mention it. You know how it is. He nodded, distracted. Yeah, sure. Anyway, Nick was trying to convince Laura to bring her weird goat cheese to the next get-together. Apparently, it's a hit now. I didn't remember anything else from the conversation. Just the static. When I got home, the walls felt closer than usual, the air thicker. Sophia was in the kitchen again. This kitchen had become her stage, coffee in hand, humming to herself, pretending that nothing had shifted beneath her feet. You're back early, she said with the same practiced smile. I nodded. Yeah, I ran into Derek. Her smile didn't falter. Oh right, Derek. He mentioned Jordan was at Laura's party. That was it. A flash of something, a blink. Her breath hitched for half a second. He stopped by, she said. The words too quick. I didn't think it mattered. He wasn't there for long, right? I said, leaning against the counter. Just slipped your mind. Huh? Sophia carefully placed her mug down. It wasn't like that, Ethan. I nodded slowly. No. Then how was it? She opened her mouth, then closed it. The gears were turning fast. She knew she was caught in something she couldn't explain away this time. We didn't plan it, she said. He just showed up. Everyone was surprised. I stared at her. You lied, I said simply. She shook her head too quickly. No, I cut in. You lied. You lied about the party. You lied about him. And even now, you're more worried about how this looks than what it is. Silence filled the space between us. I picked up my phone, scrolled through the messages, and opened Megan's latest text. My reply was short. Dinner tomorrow. Her reply came seconds later. Absolutely. I looked up at Sophia. I'll be out tomorrow night, I said in an even voice. Decided to catch up with someone honest for a change. She didn't answer. She just stood there, eyes wide, lips slightly parted, as if she didn't recognize the man in front of her anymore. I didn't recognize him either, but I liked this version better. Megan looked exactly the same and completely different at the same time. The same eyes, the same laugh, the same habit of tucking her hair behind one ear when she was concentrating. But there was something else now, a calmness in the way she held herself, like life had tried to knock her down, and she just stepped back. We met at a small Italian place tucked between a bookstore and a closed theater. The kind of spot where the light was always a little too dim and the music a little too old school. Frank Sinatra was softly crooning in the background as I slid into the booth across from her. She smiled. "You look older." I laughed. "You look exactly the same." "Liar," she said, raising an eyebrow. "But I'll take it." We ordered wine and the conversation settled in as if it had been waiting all this time. We talked about Georgetown, the late-night coffee runs, the impossible professor, about the time she dragged me to a poetry slam just for the experience of discomfort. "You hated it," she said, smiling. "No, I hated the guy who screamed about bees for 3 full minutes. Everything else was fine." She laughed. A real laugh. And I realized how long it had been since I'd heard that sound. Genuine, not polite, not forced, not squeezed out between tension. Somewhere between the second glass of wine and the arrival of the pasta, the conversation shifted. I told her the truth. All of it. Sophia, Jordan, the lies, the gut feeling, the emptiness in the house, the cold smiles, and the warmer silence. Megan didn't interrupt. She didn't try to fix anything. She just listened. And when I finally let out a breath, her hand reached across the table, gentle, steady, and rested on mine. "You deserved better," she said. It wasn't the words, but the way she said them. No pity, no judgment, just the quiet certainty of someone who meant it. "Do you think I'm overreacting?" I asked. Not because I believed I was, but because I needed someone outside the storm to confirm I wasn't going crazy. "No," she said simply. "You waited longer than most would." I nodded slowly. "I was thinking of doing something, showing up at this party I know Sophia will be at next week. I want her to see me not alone." Megan tilted her head. "You want me to go?" I didn't speak right away. There was no manipulative intent in her eyes. No hesitation, only sincerity. "Would you?" I finally asked. She smiled. "I'd be delighted." We walked together afterward just a few blocks. The evening air was soft and the city hummed around us like background noise in a movie. "Remember sitting on the campus lawn until 2 o'clock in the morning?" she asked suddenly. "And you'd bring snacks you swore were healthy?" I said, "They tasted like sand." "They were chia oat bars," she said, feigning offense. "They were a punishment," I replied. She nudged me with her elbow. "You needed grounding. You were all chaos and last-minute essays." "Still am," I admitted. She looked at me, seriously now. "But you're not the same guy. You've grown up. I can see it." That hit me harder than I expected. Not because it was flattering, but because I realized I had changed. I wasn't just trying to save a marriage anymore. I was trying to reclaim myself. By the time we reached her hotel, the sky was a deep navy. She stopped by the door, her hands in her coat pockets. "So what's the plan for the party?" she asked. I looked at her. We walk in, we smile, we let her feel it. Megan smiled. "Sounds like a plan." I watched her disappear through the glass doors, then turned back onto the pavement. And for the first time in months, I was walking without dragging my heart behind me. The party was humming with soft music and too many fake laughs. Sophia was standing near the patio, wine in hand, wrapped in a dress I hadn't seen in years, deep emerald, sleek and calculated. It was the one she saved for events where she needed to remind everyone in the room that she still had it. She hadn't seen me yet. Megan stood beside me. Her presence was like armor, calm, graceful, effortlessly magnetic. She wore a soft black dress. Nothing flashy, but it was the kind of understated beauty that draws eyes without words. And she had her hand tucked into the crook of my elbow as if we'd already been here, as if we belonged together. We walked in. A few people turned, heads tilted, smiles flashing. It didn't take long for Sophia to look our way. Her eyes landed on Megan first, a flicker of recognition. Then they found mine and froze. Her smile wavered for only a fraction of a second before she forced it back into place. She excused herself from her circle and slowly, deliberately made her way toward us. "Ethan," she said, her voice tighter than her smile. "Didn't expect to see you here." Decided to drop by, I said casually. Catch up, celebrate. Her eyes darted to Megan. And you brought company. Megan? I said, turning slightly. You remember Sophia? Megan offered a polite smile. Long time no see. Sophia's gaze sharpened. It has been a long time. There was a pause, brief but heavy. Sophia's grip on her wine glass tightened just slightly. I glanced around. Is Jordan here? Her lips parted. No. Why? I shrugged, just wondering if the guest list had changed. You know how these parties are. She didn't answer, just stared at me, and then at Megan. And I knew exactly what was happening behind those eyes. The math. She was calculating what I knew, how much I'd seen, and how much she could still twist. I didn't realize you and Megan were still close, she said slowly. I smiled. We've been reconnecting. It's been refreshing. Megan gently laid her hand on my forearm. That small gesture changed everything. Sophia's voice went quiet. Can we talk alone? No, I said softly but firmly. Anything worth saying is already out in the open, Sophia. Her face changed, a storm behind the eyes. She looked at Megan as if she was the problem, as if this whole scene was some kind of betrayal. But the only betrayal here was her own. People were watching now. Not obviously, just curiously enough. She realized it, too. I leaned in slightly, my voice calm. You can stop pretending. Sophia swallowed, and for the first time in a long time she had no answer. Megan turned to me. Ready to go? I nodded. Yes. We walked out hand in hand behind us. I didn't need to look back to know Sophia was standing in the wreckage of her own performance. And this time I was the one who left first. The house was silent when I returned. No music, no perfume, no lights left on as bait. Just the dim shadows in the hallway and that heavy quiet that suggests something is waiting behind it. Sophia was already home. I could feel it in the air, in the charge, in the way the walls seemed to brace for what was coming. She was in the living room, sitting on the edge of the couch as if she were rehearsing. Her phone was face down on the coffee table, her wine glass untouched beside it. For once, she wasn't wearing anything fancy, just a plain t-shirt, old sweatpants, her hair pulled back. It made her human. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. Can we talk? She asked. I nodded, taking the armchair opposite her, carefully maintaining the space between us. Her eyes darted over my face, searching for the usual emotion. Anger, frustration, anything she could latch onto. She didn't find it. Just tell me why, I said. Not to fix anything. I just need to understand who I married. Her mouth opened, then closed. Words didn't come easily now. That more than anything else made it real. After a pause, she said, I didn't want it to start that way. What it? I prompted. He listened. He laughed at things. You barely looked up from your phone for. He noticed when I got my hair cut, when I changed something. And you couldn't just ask me to do the same. She hesitated. I did ask, you didn't hear. That hit home. I didn't react, but I heard it. You mean I didn't listen enough? I corrected. But you didn't try again. You just switched off and turned to someone else. She winced. Not from volume. There was none. Just from the truth. Nothing physical happened between us. She said, barely a whisper. We didn't. I cut it off before it could be anything more. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. What about the texts, the secrecy, the gaslighting? When I asked, she blinked, her eyes glassy. Panicked. I thought if I confessed, everything would blow up. I thought I could kill it quietly, but the guilt just sat there like a guest you kept feeding instead of asking to leave. Sophia looked away. I thought I could control it, that I could keep everything balanced. You mean you wanted both worlds, me steady, safe, familiar, and him? Exciting, new, validating? She didn't deny it. I was scared, she whispered. I was too, I replied. Scared I was losing my mind. Scared the woman I loved was slipping through my fingers. Scared that maybe I was the one who was broken. She looked at me, then truly looked at me, and her eyes, the same eyes that used to light up when I walked into a room, were filled with something bitter and quiet regret. I still love you, she said. Tears silently tracked down her cheek. She didn't wipe them away. She just sat still like something inside her had finally surrendered. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I nodded. The next morning, Sophia was standing in the kitchen, stirring her tea like it was the only thing keeping her upright. No music, no humming, just the faint sound of the spoons circling the cup. "I made an appointment," she said, not looking at me. I paused mid-step, coffee mug in hand. "For what?" "For couples therapy Tuesday afternoon, just one session to talk to try." I looked at her back, the slump of her shoulders, the rigidity of her arms. "I want you to understand where I went wrong, where we both did." I took a sip of my coffee, bitterness on bitterness. "And you think therapy will fix this?" She turned around slowly. "I think it will explain it. You said you wanted to understand, so let me try." I nodded once. "Okay." The next 2 days passed like a scene on a loop. Quiet dinners, cautious small talk, no fights, no touches. The house became something sterile, an operating room where only memory and precision lived. When Tuesday came, we drove to the session in separate cars. The office smelled of lavender and leather chairs. The therapist, a middle-aged woman, greeted us as if we weren't dragging emotional wreckage into her workspace. Sophia did most of the talking. She spoke with a shaky honesty, her hands clasped on her knees. She admitted the attention she craved, the way she felt unseen, how she had mistaken novelty for substance, how easy it was to lie when you framed it as self-preservation. "I thought if I told him," she said, "he'd leave and then I'd lose both things. So, I convinced myself it wasn't exactly cheating, that I was still faithful." The therapist nodded, encouraging. "And me?" I listened, really listened. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't raise my voice. "I fought for us," I said. "I really did, but you never gave me a chance. You buried the problem in charm and evasion, and I buried myself trying to believe you." Sophia wiped a tear from her cheek. "I miss you," she whispered. I took a deeper breath than I intended. The room was quiet. Even the therapist said nothing. I saw her, not the villain and not the saint, just a person who had broken, just like me. I set the cup of water in front of me down and leaned forward slightly. "I miss you too," I said. Sophia looked at me like she was waiting for a verdict. But I didn't have verdicts. I only had exhaustion and something like determination. "We can try. I won't promise easy, but I can try." Her shoulders dropped slightly as if she was allowing herself to breathe for the first time in a long time. We didn't hug, didn't fall into each other's arms. We just sat there looking at each other and let the pause be part of our conversation. The therapist smiled imperceptibly, making a note in her pad. And us, we just remained in that room with the first feeling that maybe moving forward could be slightly better then.